Welcome to Game Club, the internet's premier podcast that's like a book club but for video games. Glory to Arstotzka. I'm Dan.
I'm the border guard, Catherine.
And I'm your head of propaganda, Charles.
This week we played Papers, Please. Papers, Please is a dystopian document thriller, essentially a glorified clerk working the front lines of border control in a USSR communist proxy. This was made by a lone developer, Lucas Pope, and has won a bunch of awards, the BAFTA Game Award for Strategy and Simulation. Charles, can you give us a bit of an overview of what Papers, Please is all about?
Yeah, sure. Just for our listeners that haven't played it, to give them a bit of an idea. So you're a border guard, essentially, at a border control point, just like we see at airports, and you take their passports and their IDs and their papers and all the different things that you have to collect as it gets more complicated. You check them out against the various rules, to see if they're forgeries, to see if the information's correct, maybe to check if maybe to check if they're smuggling things. Is their particular nationality not allowed through your borders at the moment? So this is what you're checking for. And if they're allowed to go through, you let them go through. And if they're not, you do not let them through. So maybe you detain them, maybe you search them, etc., etc. And that's the game. So everyone that comes through is a different character with their own little story. Sometimes maybe they're a criminal, or maybe they're the wife of someone and they don't have papers, but they're begging with you to let them through. Maybe you do. I usually didn't. So you get to make these ethical choices with these characters as well. And it kind of just branches out, and there's interesting little stories that come in regards to kind of a guerrilla force that's looking to overthrow the rulers of, now let's see if I get this right, Arstotzka.
That's it.
Sure.
And there's so much going on, and I just think it's super clever, but we'll get to that. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, that's a good back of the box description. Do you have anything to add to that? Catherine?
It's all pretty much one screen, which is interesting. It's pretty kind of pixelated art style, deliberately so, which I think it was probably done by the developer as part of the I'm a one-man team.
You've only got so many choices to make at that point.
Yeah. But I mean, it also came out during a certain time of kind of indie games where there were a fair few with that very slightly more retro-y, this is a game that you felt like you could have played in the 90s kind of type style.
And the art immerses me, and I'll get to that a little further, but I mean, the game is obviously set in that kind of 80s period, 70s, 80s period, so the art kind of immersed me in that because, they had pixelated graphics back then and it all kind of worked for me, so.
And it was just such a, it being in one screen really worked because, that's where you're in your booth just looking at documents all day. That's your job.
So immersive. Yeah.
So that's cool. We'll get to our thoughts on the game in a minute. I wanted to jump into a segment we haven't seen in a while called Your Opinion Matters. We put a call out to our listeners, that's you guys and girls out there in Radioland, on what your thoughts on Papers, Please were, as some of you are playing along with us each week. And we got a couple of comments on Facebook. Matthew Callus says, a very slow and ominous game when you first jump in, but once you get the hang of it, pace picks up and the satire is very well done. How did you guys find the pace of the game there?
Stressful. Am I wrong?
No, I got stressed too. I did get stressed.
I got less and less stressed, but I mean, partially because this is the second time I've played the game. So once I got into the rhythm of it, we can go into the specifics a bit more, but my first playthrough, I remember it was people were dying, they were cold, they were hungry. This playthrough, I literally didn't dip. I made my rent and my heat and all of those kind of things that happen at the end of every day with money to spare by quite a lot. So it's definitely
just really amazing.
Yeah,
there's definitely quite a there's quite a steep learning curve with it, but once you get there, it's especially those early days, you can build up a bit more of a buffer because you're I'm all over this shit. I know how to check your passport easily.
Yeah, sure. Whereas I was like, getting slips all over the place, you did not check their birth. Now your people go hungry. It's like, oh.
Another comment here, speaking of the satire and the humor, Anthony Murphy commented saying, Jorji Costava is the best character. Every time he pops up, I want to let him in, even though it costs me a mistake. I love his homemade passport. Arstotzka is the best. So anyone who's played the game knows who Jorji is. He comes up. He's a great guy. He never has the right, or almost never has the right details.
Or if
but
he does,
just adds a bit of levity
he's smuggling drugs.
But it adds a bit of levity to a game which, as we described, it's sort of that communist border patrol, not even patrol, just border checkpoint game that is quite stressful and dark in a lot of places, and I think it adds a bit of levity in there. So right on, Anthony, for picking up on that one.
Yeah, bit of comedy was much appreciated. I remember at one point I just let one of the guards' wives through, even though she didn't have the right paperwork, and he was so happy, and they hugged, and it was lovely. And then some terrorists came along, and because I wasn't quick enough on my rifle, they killed the guy.
You let him die, Charles.
And nothing was said. That was the best part.
Yeah.
Like, the wife didn't come back or anything, but you knew that was her husband, and just when she'd got through, he was killed because you were too slow.
I didn't even know he could be killed. I always rescued him.
It was just a really dark moment. So that was awesome. But it was nice to then have Jorji come along and be like, haha, you got me. I smuggled drugs.
It's definitely all over the place, but in a good way. And I guess we'll dive into the deeper discussion on what we thought of the game. As Charles mentioned, you have to check paperwork against rules. And so a lot of it is about your attention to detail and checking, okay, was this passport issued in the right city? Is the name on their passport the right name that's on their entry ticket? And the game ramps up slowly by increasing that complexity each day. And so each day there's usually a different rule or a different thing you got to watch out for.
And they change.
All that has changed. Now, it sounds like, Catherine, you just breezed through it. Apparently, it's just better at border control than the rest of us.
So it made a big difference that I'd played it before. So because when it started, it's like you're kind of figuring out like what to do and where to go, whereas I kind of knew that, like, okay, at the start of the game, the things that trip you up are that the issuing city is technically a city, but it's not the right one for that country. And like that was a thing that the first playthrough had really fucked with me, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a huge learning curve when you start in those early couple of days, and then you just start to feel like you're drowning in paper. And I know that sounds like a criticism, but I really don't mean it to be. It's just like,
it's the point.
Yeah, the regime escalates and escalates, and it's like, no, like we can't let people in without vaccinations, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and then you're, by the end, you're taking people's passports, which is this incredibly kind of that's pretty much the end of the game. Once you start taking people's passports, you're right near the end, and yeah, it's death through bureaucracy versus death through shooting people, and I think it's more powerful in a way than a normal militarized kind of game.
And I think it's definitely especially on that topic, that death by bureaucracy, the ever-increasing complexity and how it sort of impacts someone actually on the front lines. Like, it's not actively beating you over the head with this, but you sort of start to discover that the higher-ups putting these things in place obviously have no idea how this system works. And they're just like, oh, well, Kolechnians, can't let them in. Just nah. And then it becomes, oh, no, yeah, they need the vaccination. Oh, they need this. Oh, this needs to be correct. So you need like 20 pieces of paper from them. And when they don't have one, you got to ask them for it, or you've got to deny their passport, but then you've got to give them a reason why to deny later, and
because the journalists are getting on your back, like classic journalists, like
classic. They're the worst. And I really like how that affected you as the border person, because of course you have your own family. They're living in a class 8 apartment. Mess. I got up to class 7.
I got up to class 5.
Yeah, whatever, Catherine, whatever. And essentially, if you don't correctly either access or deny enough passports in a day, you're not making enough money to feed your family. So they're increasing this bureaucracy, but at the same time punishing you if you're not keeping up. So that was it was really clever.
Especially the time element each day. And as you said, if you process someone correctly, you get 5 credits or whatever it is. And if you fail, you don't get credits, but you get a citation. And on your third citation, you start getting fines.
Then you're real screwed.
Yeah. Then your family's going without heat or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, and it is fascinating. So I think for me, the thing I kept on thinking about is because they always talk about, especially with World War II, but it kind of applies to any country where things have gone a bit wrong, about how like, oh, why didn't people do something?
I found this as well.
Why didn't the guards at, the concentration camps realize they were doing something wrong and let people out, which, it seems on its face like a really valid criticism. And then you kind of go like, you can feel the slow slide, like the slide from the start of the game of like, I'm denying people, but like, look, they don't have a passport. They don't have the right form. Like, of course I can't let them into my country, to like, oh, now I'm letting people in, but I'm taking away their passports, or I'm denying people because even though they're a refugee, but because their papers are slightly expired. Like,
or this woman's there saying, if you don't let me through, I'm going to be killed. And you're like, well, I'm on my second citation. Yeah. And like, how do I know you're telling the truth? Is it worth the risk of my family not eating tonight?
And if you let every single, I finished the game a few times. So there are various different endings.
Yeah, it's great.
And also what I really appreciated is that you can start from, so there's 31 days is the maximum. And you can start, like, I could start from day 29 a number of times and get various different endings. So it didn't feel like a game that was all about grinding.
That was a really cool feature.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought it was really cleverly designed to not frustrate you, but to really reward you for finding different options.
To explore the story.
Yeah, but so I've seen those end stats a bunch of times, and so for a bit of a challenge, I did a no citations playthrough, which is hard. I didn't have to restart too many times because I started to get into a weird like Zen rhythm. A completely citation-free. I was the border machine. A completely citation-free playthrough isn't possible because Jorji actually forces a citation on you.
Oh, wow.
Because he gives you his passport he's like, oh, I'll give you my passport so you can escape, and you can't refuse it. So you always have to finish the game with one citation, which I was a bit annoyed by.
I thought that might be the case. I think I warned you out.
No, you have to. I've replayed that day a bunch of times.
No. I think I warned you out that you couldn't do it without a citation, and you're like, no, I got this. So
that's fine.
Well, I guess
just wanted to
theoretically you did. Theoretically you did. Let's say you did. I'm going to give that to you.
Yes, say I did. Yeah. I was pretty good.
I think you deserve
that. But so I've seen the end stats when you have basically a perfect game. And you deny about the same amount of people as you let through. So if you let everyone through, your family would die and you would lose the game. So there's no way to not deny a certain amount of people, but it's really about finding the right moral balance. Like when I did the no citation playthrough, because honestly that was really rough, because it was like people were like, let me through so I can avenge my daughter's death, or let me through, my husband's on the other side. I'm like, denied.
There's a couple of ones as well where this lady's like, oh, this guy, he's sort of a pimp. He promised us jobs, but I fear that he's going to steal our passports. Can you please deny him from coming in? And then you're like, but all his paperwork's in order.
So I let him through because I'm like, his paperwork's legit. And then the next day there's a little news feature, and it was like that these prostitutes have been found dead. And I was just like, oh.
Yeah, see, I went back and played that and denied him. And then, the story is different. It's that because I detained him or something, the prostitute ring was blown open or whatever. Like the stories were slightly different. So each day there are some scripted events, but then as Catherine was saying, the rest are just sort of randomly, good or not.
Yeah. So it's really about where your moral, like on a normal playthrough, like the first time I did it, you just kind of, you do the best you can. Like when someone has a really compelling story, you're like, I guess I'll let you in. Like, or they won't quite make enough sense and you're like, I'm sorry, you're being denied. Like I reckon most people on their first playthrough would kind of end up a little bit grey.
And not this guy.
Well, no, you did. You worked for the Order, Charles, you said.
Well, let's go into that. So which paths did you guys sort of gravitate towards in your first playthrough or in your sort of natural playthrough?
Yeah, so I went pretty dark to begin with. I was like denying everyone because I just did not care. I had to feed my family. Actually, the first playthrough, I got put in jail. That was my first one. I was trying my best to do what they wanted me to, but I just could not earn enough money. My family went hungry. They were cold. I was in debt, and I was like $5 in debt. And they're off to jail with you.
How many people did you tend to get through a day?
I don't know, like 6.
Oh, jeez.
This is my very first playthrough. Okay. I mean, let's be kind. Let's be kind.
So my average day is about 13.
Yeah, well, look, Catherine, we're not all gods of Papers, Please. So, yeah, so that was my first playthrough. And after that, I wanted to avenge, the cruelty that had been put upon me. So then I started working for the Order. And the second playthrough, I got to assassinate that red character. And they escaped my family, but I was locked up. So, yeah, that's how I roll.
Is that the one where you have to decode the puzzle and then you get the poison?
It's so cool. And you stamp the poison onto its thing, and it's just great mechanics. And the immersion of that with an iPad is really good.
Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah, again, like this is a rare game I played on my computer the first time and the iPad the second, because I played it when it came out a few years ago. It's made for iPad. Like you drag the documents, you click stuff that doesn't work with your finger. Like it works so well that I can't imagine going back to using a keyboard like an idiot.
Well, I used a keyboard, and
idiot.
I used a mouse, and the keyboard does get used later when you purchase upgrades. So at the start, you have to click everything. But then, you can, if you have a bit of spare money, you can buy an upgrade for your booth. So you press spacebar and that activates the discrepancy thing, or you press tab and that slides the stamps out. I assume obviously
that
those
would be convenient.
Upgrades are different on iPad.
No, you just have
it's
to
all just touching it.
You just suck it up.
But I think overall it's faster.
Two-finger moving at the same time and things like that?
It's not that useful.
Yeah, you don't really use it.
It's already too easy. They don't need to make you earn new upgrades.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, the iPad, because you're dragging the documents, there's that textile, as in I'm holding their passport, like as I'm moving
throwing
it about.
it in the bin.
Yeah. So you're placing it in the stealing pile or whatever. Like, so you're definitely feeling like it's more you in there. So I thought playing it on the iPad was great as my first little foray into proper iPad gaming experience.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, oh, sorry, you go, Daniel.
Oh yeah, I was going to say. I was going to ask you what you gravitated towards too, Catherine, but you gravitated towards winning all for the Glory of Arstotzka.
I did. I mean, I tend to go more the rebels, as I think probably most game players do. Like someone comes along and says, we can overthrow it all. You're like, yeah, okay.
Hell yeah, why not? Yeah.
I guess my thing with the game was that weirdly, I think it would be the kind of game that would be great to get people that are studying like the Cold War or World War II or stuff like that to play, because, it's a fictional country. You're not actually, pretending that you're a German border security guard or anything like that. But it makes you remember that every time there's huge events, there's little people that just wanted to keep their family going that are little cogs in the big machine. And really make you feel that, like maybe you should have let that person through, but you also had your own people to protect and your own shit that you wanted to worry about. And I don't know if you guys got to this ending, but kind of, I guess one of the happiest ones is when you get your entire family passports for a different country and you all escape, and you doctor them, and you've had to take them from other, like the people that come through the
you have
checkpoint.
To confiscate Orbistan passports because Arstotzka has confiscated yours.
Yeah. So it's really dark, and I did that. I got enough for all of my family, and then you go to another checkpoint, and someone else looks at your papers, and you sit there waiting. I mean, it's just a little cutscene, but it's just
cool.
that feeling of like, this is like. I mean, and he lets you through, but the tables have turned. Like he's looking at my forged papers, and I'm really hoping he doesn't spot that my name doesn't match the fingerprints or whatever, and it's just a really neat little circular kind of moment where
neat.
The border guard becomes the person being boarded.
Immigrant.
I don't know.
Immigrant.
Refugee.
There you go.
Boarded.
Yeah.
What? Nailed
But I
it.
mean,
Great at
there are
words.
some problems with Arstotzka that would make you want to leave, I guess. But one of the things that is really big, and Ali Pope on Facebook asked us to point this out. She said, please discuss Arstotzka's booming strip club scene. Because quite often, women coming into the country will pass you like a business card, I guess, for the strip club. What is going on there? I assume that's to highlight crazy amounts of human trafficking.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of modeled on a few kind of Eastern Europe-y, Russia-y type countries, you'd assume.
It is. Yeah.
And that is a booming industry.
Yeah. Did you do many of the little things? I know, Charles, you said that you were sort of struggling a little bit, but when you did certain nice things, you get little coins.
I did get a few coins. Yeah.
Did you get a few coins?
Yeah, I got a few coins. That was cool.
So I want to run through just a couple that I can remember off the top of my head. So the one where the husband comes through and is like, hey, we're moving to this new country. My wife's in the line behind me. We're so excited. Did you let her through?
Not ever.
Catherine?
It depended on which playthrough, but yeah, of course.
Okay. But how do you know?
When I
they're
did
not
my
spies?
medal playthrough,
How do you know they're not spies, Catherine?
you don't, but you get a medal, Charles. Clearly
So
you want to collect the medals.
I'm looking at this from a possibly different perspective to you guys. So we haven't discussed my career, but I'm kind of part of the machine, and we'll leave it as that. So the way I was seeing it was, I'm like, well, they could be a terrorist. They could be lying. They could be trying to get past. Like, I was instantly,
But
they were the
that
enemy.
had no impact on the game. Like, if you had let 100 people through, you wouldn't have seen something different the next day, unless it was like you let the Kalechian envoy through and you weren't meant to, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's
Catherine was
interesting.
coming at from a very metagamey kind of perspective.
No, generally I got the
just an
medals because I was
ethical
trying to do the
perspective.
nice thing. Yeah.
But because you were believing them, whereas I was looking at it from the perspective of, well, that's what I would say if I was a special forces person trying to get through a border checkpoint. So
Right.
yeah, right. The tables turn.
Did you ever let Jorji through? We haven't really
I
touched on
did
him a little bit.
I
but-
very much did.
When
I could
he
help
got
myself.
the right passport, or
I think so. Yeah. Because I sent him away for drugs a couple of times, and then he came back like a third time, and I'm like, you know what, mate, you deserve this. You
He
go.
actually comes
citation.
back with proper papers one
Yeah,
time,
he
I'm pretty
does.
syeah.
Yeah, wow.
because
Good
on the
for
no
him.
But even
citation
if you-
playthrough, I had to let him through, and I checked his papers very carefully.
Well, yeah, he turns up at the beginning without a passport at all, so you can't even let him in because
No,
there's
you
nothing to
can.
stamp.
No,
you
The
can.
first time he
He's-
rocks up.
he's correct. He's got nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, Arstotzka, great country, no need
No.
passport.
You can still let him through, because to deny him, you have to get a slip of paper, and on that slip of paper, you can still technically stamp approved. Because I
Really?
let him through the
Yeah.
very first time I saw him on
So
a
you can get
certain
any-
playthrough.
Where do you get the paper from?
It's something that
when-
automatically turns up. The PC and
Yeah.
iPad versions might be slightly different.
Yeah, I think that might be different because there was just nothing. He doesn't even give you anything. There's nothing to stamp.
Well, no, because to
'Cause it's
send
on,
him
like, the
away,
third day
you
or
always
something.
have to be able to send a denial form. So a denial form just appears.
No, denial forms only come in later in the game on the PC. Like they're only there
Okay.
from like day 20 onwards or something.
Okay.
A fascinating debate we possibly don't
Yeah.
need to have.
Anyway, yeah, not that exciting.
So Jorji, super fun guy, very fun, very cool. So there was obviously there was a guy that asked you to hand out business cards for the engineers.
Did that?
Yep, did that.
One of the guards asks you or tells you like, hey, I'll start paying you money the more people you detain.
I detained a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure Charles did.
I did that on my first playthrough, but then I was like, this is taking longer. The detaining process takes longer than
It does.
I could get someone through and maybe.
But you get the bonus. It ends up being more effective.
Yeah, it's totally more effective.
maybe.
Yeah, great
No,
ethical
definitely.
choices. And just there were so many. What I love about this game, and what I haven't seen in many games, is actual deep ethical choices. Usually, it's just you're evil or you're good, and you it's really obvious when you make that choice. But in this one, it was really quite difficult because people all had their own agendas. You had your own agenda. You were doing your best to survive within this kind of horrible world, and the ethical choices were quite complex. And that's so rare that I think people really need to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think
Did you
that's
accept-
kind of
Oh, sorry.
the
Go
best tagline for the game. Like, just doing your best, really.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you send people away and they die the next day, but like they didn't have the right papers.
Did you accept the money, Charles? Because I know one time a guy comes through, possibly working with the order or something, and I think he offers you money.
I don't think I did. Oh, I think he gave me the money and the watch, and I think I kept the money, didn't let him through, but gave him back the watch.
Oh,
Right.
you're talking about watch guy. No, the order, I accepted it. It gets taken away unless you burnt it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The $1,000. Yeah. They gave you $1,000 and then it gets taken away. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. If you burn it, I'm pretty sure, I was doing some reading. Apparently, he can offer you 2,000.
Yeah. Awesome.
And if you don't burn that, if you're like, okay, yeah, I'll take I've burnt the 1,000, but now I'll take the 2,000, then they're instantly just like, yeah, you fucked up.
They'd be onto you. Yeah, in a second. Was there anything that you'd improve in the game?
I mean, there's one for me. Make it so that you can do a no citation playthrough.
You should write to the single designer and let him know, Catherine.
I mean, obviously, I loved the game. Like, you don't play it. I think I got to about 8 endings out of the 20. But that said, that wasn't 8 playthroughs. That was, there would be certain days where if I made one choice or another, when I shot the red guy, there was a day where I didn't and I found a different ending. But yeah, I mean, I think it's for what it is. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to do, and there's not much I'd change.
I'd really enjoy it if there was a mode that slowed down the days a little, because while the time pressure is super important, because that's what's creating tension in the game, I found I wasn't able to enjoy the storylines as much and the narrative because I was so stressed about meeting these time frames. Shut up. So, but the stories were really good and sometimes really deep. So I'd probably enjoy a mode where you could, a narrative mode, if you will, where you could kind of choose when to end your day. Well, I mean, I had easy mode ticked most of the time any day anyway. It was an extra $20 a day. I needed it, Catherine. My son no eat without it.
So would you play the endless mode then, Charles?
Well, did that slow it down? I never played that.
I think that was just stay alive as long as you can.
Yeah, exactly. I'd really like a narrative mode where you could choose when to end the day and just enjoy the stories.
Yeah. Oh, that's so adorable. I mean, there was this weird rush. Like, it was this thing of, you'd get one form and you get the passport and you'd see the thing where the numbers were different and you were about to be able to detain them. And that's like, you were fucking over someone's life, but like, that's a victory. And it was this, just this really strange, like, yes, I got them. Oh, I've just sent away a father that wanted to reunite with his son. Oh.
Or I've sent away the girlfriend that the guard asked me specifically to let through.
Yep.
Yeah. And talking about specific things and asking people to do things, how about giving us a review on iTunes? Ooh, I tried. Did I get it, Dan? Did I do it as well as you did?
That was good.
Right?
We did get a 5-star review recently.
No, I don't believe you. Yeah. 5 stars. That's impressive.
So no citations. The review was from With Lucky
Jorji.
Sevens. He says, brilliant stuff, guys. Yeah, from Jorji. Fun to listen to on the way to work. Thoroughly enjoying it. Keep up the amazing work. And then open mouth smile emoji.
Well,
that's
the open mouth smile.
Getting an approve.
Yeah, wow. The open mouth smile emoji really makes it. I mean, there's normal smile and then there's open mouth smile. So thank you, With Lucky Sevens.
Yeah.
If you want to get your passport approved, you can always head on over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review or just any kind of review and just be honest. That'd be awesome too. And we might read it out on the show.
Except 1 star, her voice is too shrill. Like, I understand that.
Look, as long as it's honest, like if they say, hey, look, your entry ticket is expired, 1 star rejected, like you'd have to accept that.
Yeah, reason for denial included.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, let's continue on. You've sort of talked about a couple of things you'd want to adjust the game. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on to game recommendations?
I'm pretty sure that's it. I really want to make sure people understand that it's this little pixelated game, but the immersion that it creates is just so impressive with the theme that it goes with. So if you're looking for a really immersive game to make some ethical choices in, I would recommend Papers, Please.
I think as well, like if you're someone who is looking for an employee and you've put on like requirement attention to detail, maybe make them play this game because you need a lot of attention to detail to to continue and do well in this game.
Yeah,
Are you saying I have high
rubbish.
attention to detail?
Yeah, I would say you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Whereas I know I have rubbish attention to detail. I like to describe myself as a big hands leader. Subsequently, I do not make a good border guard.
Yeah, that sounds like laziness and someone that doesn't want to look at every page of the passport to me.
No one's got
That's all
time
right,
for that.
Charles.
Captain.
Machines do that job nowadays anyway. Who
Right?
cares?
Right? I'm going to tell
I
the
mean,
machines
Catherine, your
what to
job's
do.
very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a creative. My job is not stamping passports.
If you say so. You say that now.
Do you reckon you could really get a class 5 apartment as a creative in Arstotzka?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but
We'll
that's
see
why I
how well
wouldn't be
creatives
creative.
do with the revolution, Captain.
Fair.
All
Very
right, well,
fair.
let's move on to game recommend game. Charles, you're the only one with actual notes on a game to recommend.
That's because I'm actually committed to this podcast, Dan.
I would love to hear what game you'd recommend to people if they've played this and kind of enjoyed it. What else would you get them on
So
for?
I'd recommend the Tropico Series. It's kind of your obvious go-to with this kind of theme. Essentially, it's the bit of the flip side. So you are the dictator. He kind of walks around, but you make the choices of the government. And yeah, you get to have your own little dictatorship on an island, and it's just a lot of fun because who doesn't like being a dictator? No
It has a
one.
lot of similar kind of humor as well, where you. So instead of being the border guy, you're actually the dictator handing down ridiculous legislation.
You are. It's a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed it back in the day when I played it. It's always on Steam for sale at various, $2-3. So maybe pick that up if you're into being a dictator.
I'm going to recommend a game we've covered on a previous game club, and that's the Stanley Parable. It's a very different style of game. Obviously, Stanley Parable is a first-person walking around based on the Half-Life mod, but it has a lot of that branching, different kind of endings and different kind of choices, and sort of what choices you make sort of define your character. And I feel that there's a bit of a parallel in there. And if you like that aspect of Papers, Please, you might really dig looking into Stanley Parable. And you can always just listen to our episode of the podcast to get a feel for it. Although I recommend playing it before you listen to the podcast because we spoil it. So
We do. Spoil it, also. I've got 2 recommendations, and I guess they're not hugely similar in terms of gameplay, but they're similar in terms of feel. So one is a game called Beholder, which is you're a state-installed landlord in a totalitarian state, so you have to spy on tenants and eavesdrop and profile them and report on them. So very similar in feel to Papers, Please. And then, although very different it's kind of a side-scrolling 2D, almost like looks a bit more like Sim Tower kind of. So very different art style wise. And then the other one is one called the Westport Independent, which again is it's a censorship simulator.
Interesting.
And you're editor of one of the last independent newspapers in the country, and you have to decide what news you will publish and what news you will censor, which side of, are you going to report what the government tells you to report, or will you report the truth and get shut down? And again, very limited in scope. Like you literally just see, text on screen, and it's very pixelated as well. So really similar game, but completely different at the same time.
Very good.
I just got reminded of one that I hadn't played, but I'd seen at PAX last year.
Yep.
That's Orwell, where you take the role of a sort of NSA security officer, or just, a surveillance officer, and your whole job is grabbing details and grabbing data from surveillance, trying to work out what's relevant, and then sending it on to the relevant organization, so whether it's the FBI, the CIA, or their equivalent, and so it's that you're sort of one step removed from everyone that you're looking after, but it's about looking at the details and working out and trying to stop terror threats and things like that. With sometimes you get it completely wrong because you are that you don't have the full context and you're not there actually seeing the people and whatnot. So probably a good game for you, Charles.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and it looks really good. I'd probably need a bit of a break between playing Papers, Please and this. Otherwise, I might just go into a spiraling hole of depression. But it might be a game in the future to play.
Yeah.
If you're a bit worried about the depressive nature of Papers, Please, we got something to brighten your spirits. It's a quiz.
Oh my God, it's a quiz.
Woo, quiz.
Are you pumped for quiz, Catherine?
Can I continue my reign?
Your streak. It's 3 for 3 now, right?
I think I've won every quiz I was in. I don't want to brag, but I'm the best Papers, Please player. I can get up the escalators, no problem.
This might be your time to continue to shine.
I think it's defined as hubris in the dictionary.
That seems like a good thing. I don't know what it means, but it sounds positive. So the quiz for today is a bit of a dictator theme going on. So what I've got for you is 4 kind of examples, and there's 2 examples with each, question or whatever, and it's things that crazy dictators have done.
Oh God,
and one's correct and one's fake, and you've got to tell me which one's the correct one. And we'll take it in turns of going first.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, clever, right? This guy put in some effort. So, Catherine, you'll go first on this one.
So Dan will say his answer as well, or just me?
Just after you.
Until you get it wrong.
And then we'll switch.
Okay.
All right, so the choices for this one. Did a dictator either have 15 female virgin bodyguards or turn their palace floor into a giant aquarium?
The virgin bodyguards, because I know that there's one currently that only has female bodyguards, so that seems realistic.
Seems legit. Dan, what about you?
Well, I guess I'll say the opposite. So I'm going to say that the aquarium.
You can choose mine.
No, I can't. I'm going to say the aquarium.
Well,
Toads did the aquarium.
Catherine's right. Gaddafi had 15 female virgin bodyguards because that's how you roll.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, good for you. All right, very good. Catherine won. Oh, Dan, don't let her win. Don't let this happen.
No
All right,
one
question
wants
2.
It, not even me.
Question 2. Did a dictator either move all public holidays to the birthdays of their family or kidnap a famous movie director and force them to modernize their country's film industry? Dan.
I'm going to say kidnap a film director.
Catherine.
I'm going to say kidnap as well.
Yeah, you were both correct.
Oh,
I think it was Kim Jong-un, one of them, the one from ages ago in North Korea, kidnapped a famous South Korean movie director and forced him to make movies in North Korea while in prison until he managed to escape.
So I think there was one white person in North Korea that ended up being the villain in all of their movies because he was just living there or he was captured there or something.
Still there.
No, there's a guy there that moved there and it's like he's in his 40s and he's very powerful and he's just this weird Western guy that lives in North Korea.
That's so great. All right, here we go. Number 3, Catherine's 2 to Dan's 1. Did a dictator rename the month of January after themselves or whip their population into a lynch mob set to kill the Rolling Stones after being stood up for a meeting?
I'm going to choose 2.
Dan. Sorry, Catherine.
Catherine goes first.
2 for me.
Which one? The second one I said?
Yeah, the second one, Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones. And Dan?
So they didn't kill the Rolling Stones.
They're actually robots.
They whipped them up into a frenzy, not with literal whips. I'm going to say, whip them up into a frenzy.
You're both incorrect.
Oh, no.
What? It seemed like such a better story.
Wait for it. The dictator not only changed the name to something really weird, but then named the month of January after the weird new name they had given themselves because, that's what you do, as well as a whole bunch of other things in their country.
That's
it was amazing.
See, if you'd said something about July or October, then I would have been like, that guy.
Of course. That dictator. And in the Philippines, it was actually the Beatles that were almost run down by the lynch mob as they fled on foot to the airport, not the Rolling Stones. But, I just thought I'd just throw that in there to mix it up. So both incorrect. Catherine's still on 2, Dan on 1. This one now for 2 points to give Dan a chance.
Hey!
Did a director, and who's going first this time? I think it's Dan.
Dan is.
So did a dictator either force white slaves to act as footrests or invent blow-up dolls to avoid their soldiers getting syphilis? Dan.
Ooh. Whoa. Invent?
I feel like a dictator somewhere has used white slaves as footrests.
You know what? I'm going to say blow-up dolls because that's just hilarious.
Catherine.
I'm going to say footrests.
There we go. And Dan takes out the quiz.
Wait, that's for the win? I assumed it was for a tie because I want
for
2
points. It was very clear.
I was very clear, Catherine. I was very clear. Don't be
You
sour.
just wanted me to not
Don't
win.
be sour.
I'm so sour.
So Hitler actually created blow-up dolls, according to the one internet page that I very thoroughly researched.
I feel like, you know what? I
And he
feel like
gave them
mine
to
is
his
correct
soldiers.
somewhere, so that's not right.
They
I
were-
get
hang
2
on,
points as well.
hang on. They were only able to get about 50 dolls out because the soldiers refused to take them for some reason. But they were small enough to fit in a backpack. And the African dictator actually used white slaves to carry him around on a chair, not as foot slaves. Footrests, I should say. So close, but no cigar, Catherine.
Whatever.
Catherine, study up on your
Whatever.
real world dictators some more.
Yep.
It's
Make it
all
happen.
because the last one was 2 points. It's bullshit.
You're
Whoa.
a child.
That's a citation-worthy
You're the
statement,
child.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Oh man, if I got
all right.
citations for every swear.
Well, I think that we're almost at the end with Dan victorious
Yes.
in reportedly the hardest quiz to date. So he's the real quiz master.
Fuck off.
I think my family's going to be able to upgrade to a class 4 apartment now.
Class 4, wow. What a move.
I'm
what
going to
a
do the
move.
next quiz. And I'm going to win my own.
Good for you.
Sure. Speaking
Yeah.
of the next quiz, the next time on Game Club, Catherine, tell us
So
what it is. Actually, you know what?
very
Maybe
much-
winners. Maybe winners should mention
no,
what
no,
it
I'm going
is.
to tell them. I'm going to tell them because this is my idea.
Sure.
Very much against Charles and Daniel's will, I'm forcing them to play a game I'm very excited about called Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy is a dad dating simulator where you play as a dad and your goal is to meet and romance other hot dads.
It's out there.
It looks amazing. It is by the Game Grumps YouTube guys. It's I believe their first proper game.
Yep.
And it looks amazing. So I'm very excited.
I've never played a dating game before, so I guess if you're going to jump into the genre,
Yeah.
jump into a topical
Daddy.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in this game you are also a dad trying to date other
other
dads.
dads.
It's you and your daughter.
Took me a
there,
while
so you're a
to
single
work
dad.
that out.
Yeah.
I got there.
Charles is like, so what do the women look like? I'm like, thinking about it the wrong way.
So that game just came out on Steam, although when I checked the Steam store, it says it wasn't coming out to the 20th. So
Yes,
it
I
was
think
meant
there
to
was a
come
bit
out
of
on
a
the 13th.
delay. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a bit of a delay.
So we're
That
going to
will
get on
happen.
that as soon as possible. I assume we won't need the full 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from today, well, if it comes out on the 20th, well, that should be plenty of time. Thank you for listening to the Game Club podcast. I've been your host, Dan.
I've been
It's
Catherine,
been
the
me.
failure.
Oh.
That's fine.
While also interrupting me. Well, that's 2 for 2.
Yeah.
2 citations, 1 more and you get fined.
And I've been Charles, avid board game and tabletop player. We'll catch you next time.
Check us out on the Twitter. Fuck, I was trying to get Catherine to interrupt me.
See you guys. Bye.